Welcome to Vietnam News, where East meets West. I'm Scott, and before we begin tonight's report, a quick reminder. We are not a political news outlet. Our goal is simple, to bring real stories from Vietnam and Southeast Asia to viewers around the world, and help bridge the understanding between East and West. Tonight's top story involves world politics, but we're here to report, not to take sides. Now to our developing story. Donald Trump is stepping directly into Southeast Asian diplomacy. After months of deadly border clashes between Thailand and Cambodia, a historic peace agreement is now on the table. And in a move that has drawn global attention, U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed he will travel to Malaysia to witness the signing of that agreement. This is not a symbolic visit. Trump's presence signals serious international involvement in a long-running regional dispute and marks a rare moment where a U.S. leader becomes personally connected to Southeast Asian peace negotiations. What is this conflict about? The tension between Thailand and Cambodia centers around a 4.6 square kilometer strip of land near the Preah Vihear Temple, an ancient Hindu temple that sits on a mountain along their shared border. The International Court of Justice ruled in 1962 that the temple belongs to Cambodia, but Thailand disputes ownership of the surrounding land, and the exact border remains unclear even today. The modern conflict reignited in July, when both armies exchanged heavy artillery fire. More than 40 people were killed, villages were destroyed, and over 200,000 civilians had to flee. Sniper fire, landmines, and military outposts now dot the border, turning the disputed area into a war zone in slow motion. Malaysia stepped in to mediate, and the United States joined as a diplomatic partner. After weeks of behind-the-scenes negotiations, a formal peace agreement is now scheduled to be signed at the ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur on October 26th. Donald Trump will attend as an official witness, giving the deal a level of international recognition that previous ceasefire attempts never had. The agreement, known as the Kuala Lumpur Accord, calls for a withdrawal of heavy weapons, removal of landmines, and a monitored ceasefire zone to prevent future clashes. Malaysia and the U.S. will act as facilitators to help enforce the terms. Thailand has demanded security guarantees, a crackdown on smuggling routes along the border, and a clear plan for residents living in disputed areas. Cambodia has rejected forced relocation and insists that people who have lived there for generations must be allowed to remain. Both sides accuse the other of breaking previous ceasefires, so trust remains low. That's why Trump's attendance is making headlines. His involvement increases the political cost of failure for both sides. If this agreement succeeds, the border could finally stabilize, trade routes could reopen, and both countries could redirect military spending back toward their economies. It would also be a major win for ASEAN diplomacy, showing that Southeast Asia can solve regional problems without foreign military intervention. But if this deal collapses, the conflict could return even worse than before. So what do you think? Does Trump being there make this peace effort stronger, or is this just political theater for the cameras? And will Thailand and Cambodia finally close this historic dispute once and for all? Let me know in the comments. As always, I read every one of them. For our next story tonight, we move to Ho Chi Minh City, where a tragic cosmetic surgery case has now turned into a criminal investigation. What started as a routine beauty enhancement ended in a patient's death, and now, months later, the surgical team has been arrested. Authorities say this case could expose serious gaps in Vietnam's booming cosmetic industry. The incident took place on May 28th, when a female patient underwent a cosmetic operation at a private clinic. During the procedure, she suddenly collapsed on the operating table and never regained consciousness. Efforts by the clinic's medical team to resuscitate her failed, and she was pronounced dead shortly after. For months, little information was released about what truly happened in that operating room. But after nearly 5 months of investigation, police moved in. On October 14th, 2025, authorities arrested 5 members of the surgical team, including the lead surgeon, anesthesiologist, and 3 assistants. They are now being investigated for professional negligence and potential violations of medical regulations. So, what exactly went wrong? According to preliminary findings, the patient had been admitted for what was advertised as a routine elective cosmetic procedure. But investigators believe that serious medical safety standards may have been ignored. There are ongoing questions about whether the clinic was operating within its legal scope, staff were licensed and fully qualified, safety and anesthesia protocols were properly followed, patient screening and risk assessments were done before surgery, emergency equipment and procedures were adequate. Police have seized medical records, surgery logs, and equipment for forensic review as part of a deeper investigation into possible malpractice or even criminal liability. This tragedy once again exposes a troubling issue. Vietnam's booming cosmetic surgery industry is growing faster than its regulations. Private clinics often market aggressively on social media, attracting clients with low prices and big promises. But behind the glossy ads, not all of these facilities meet medical standards. Some lack full operating licenses, others cut corners to maximize profit. Sadly, this case is not unique. In recent years, Vietnam has recorded multiple deaths linked to cosmetic surgeries gone wrong. Each incident raises the same questions. Who is responsible for regulating these clinics? Why aren't mandatory safety inspections more strict? And why does it take a tragedy before authorities step in? The outcome of this case could change things. If prosecutors move forward with criminal charges, it may send a strong message to the cosmetic surgery industry nationwide. Stricter licensing, transparent medical credentials, and routine inspections may soon become unavoidable. Civil lawsuits from the victim's family are also expected. This serves as a powerful reminder. Cosmetic surgery is still surgery. It carries medical risks, and those risks become deadly when laws are ignored and patient safety takes a back seat. What do you think? Should Vietnam tighten regulations on private cosmetic clinics? Or is this ultimately a matter of personal responsibility and informed risk? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective. For our next story, we head to Binh Duong province, where 2 nearly completed hospitals worth hundreds of billions of dong have been sitting in silence for 7 years. No doctors, no nurses, no patients, just weeds, cracked walls, and locked doors. It's a quiet healthcare mystery, and a costly one. These aren't small neighborhood clinics. One is a 300-bed psychiatric hospital, and the other is a 150-bed respiratory and tuberculosis hospital. Both were meant to boost specialized healthcare capacity in one of the fastest-growing provinces near Ho Chi Minh City. Both were completed around 2018, and here we are in 2025, and they're still not open. So what happened? According to local reports, both hospitals face serious construction problems. During inspection, officials said the buildings failed to meet technical and safety requirements. Electrical systems didn't meet standards. Fire prevention systems weren't properly installed. Interior finishing didn't match approved designs. Even water and sewage systems had unresolved issues. In simple terms, the buildings were finished, but not finished correctly. Ownership has also been a major problem. Management and operation units were never clearly assigned. So even while the structures were ready, no one was officially responsible for equipping them, staffing them, or opening them. Imagine building a house, then realizing nobody ever applied for electricity or owns the keys. That's basically where things got stuck. You might be wondering, weren't these hospitals used during the pandemic? Yes, briefly. During the height of COVID-19 in 2021, One of the buildings was temporarily used as a treatment facility. But once the crisis eased, it was abandoned again, and no long-term operational plan was put in place. Meanwhile, the price of letting these buildings sit unused keeps rising. Weather damage, vandalism, and general decay have already caused millions in repair costs. Grass has overgrown the hospital grounds. Dirt and mold now stain the walls. Rooms meant for patients are collecting dust, not people. The longer they sit, the more expensive it becomes to bring them back to life. So why does this matter? Because hospitals aren't just buildings. They represent critical healthcare resources. Binh Duong has one of the youngest and fastest growing populations in Vietnam thanks to its industrial zones. That means more workers, more families, and more demand for healthcare services. At a time when hospital overcrowding is a national issue, letting 450 unused hospital beds rot is more than a financial mistake. It's a public health failure. Local officials have said they now plan to repair and activate both hospitals. The psychiatric hospital may be transferred to a major mental health center to operate as a branch facility. The respiratory hospital may be revived under a larger medical network for lung and tuberculosis treatment. That all sounds promising, but we've heard similar promises since 2018, and so far, nothing has moved faster than paperwork. There are deeper questions too. Why were the original construction mistakes never resolved by the contractors? Who approved the failed inspection reports? Why did the handover process stall for years? And why has no one been held publicly accountable for nearly $500 billion dong trapped in wasted infrastructure? This story reflects a pattern we've seen before. Build fast, plan later. The result? Expensive hospitals with no doctors, universities with no students, public projects that look good on paper but collapse in execution due to weak oversight and fragmented management. The good news? These hospitals can still be saved, and quickly. The structures are already there. The investment is already made. All that's needed now is political will and operational urgency, not another committee, not another feasibility review, just a decision. Because the question isn't whether Binh Duong needs these hospitals, it's why people are still waiting for them. Let's hope 7 years of silence finally turns into action, and that these empty halls open their doors to patients instead of grass and dust. For our next story, a simple act of honesty at Phu Quoc International Airport has turned into a feel-good story that's now making headlines both in Vietnam and abroad. An Australian tourist has been reunited with $1,500 in cash after accidentally leaving a wallet behind. And it's all thanks to one hard-working airport cleaner who refused to take a single dong that didn't belong to her. Let's get into the details. It started like every classic travel mistake: a hectic airport arrival, luggage everywhere, immigration forms, and the excitement of finally landing in Vietnam's island paradise. That's when the unnamed Australian tourist made a simple but costly mistake, leaving her wallet behind in the baggage claim area. And not just any wallet. Inside was $1,500 in cash, plus credit cards and personal documents. The kind of loss that ruins a vacation before it even starts. By the time she realized it was missing, she panicked. You can imagine that sinking feeling, like reaching for your phone in your pocket and realizing it's not there. Times 1,000. Meanwhile, a cleaner at Phu Quoc Airport named Nguyen Thi Thuy found the wallet while working her shift in the arrivals terminal. Now, many people might have looked around, pocketed the cash, and walked away. After all, nobody was watching, right? But Thuy didn't hesitate. She did exactly the right thing. She immediately reported the found wallet to airport security. She didn't even open it. She simply turned it in and went right back to work. Airport officials were able to track down the Australian traveler. who returned to the terminal in absolute shock, expecting the worst but hoping for a miracle. When she was handed back her wallet untouched, yes, every cent was still there, she was overwhelmed and insisted on thanking Thuy personally. This story has been widely shared in Vietnam, with people praising Thuy's honesty, saying she represents the best of Vietnamese hospitality. It's the kind of genuine, human story that visitors remember long after they go home. Not the fancy hotels or beach clubs, but the honest kindness of everyday people. Airport authorities recognize Thuy with a certificate of appreciation for her integrity. Others are calling her a role model and a reminder that honesty doesn't require wealth or status, just character. Let's zoom out for a moment. Stories from Vietnam in the international media too often focus on politics, business, or disasters. But this is the Vietnam that millions of travelers experience: warm, safe, and grounded in strong values. Many foreigners who move here say one of the most surprising things about Vietnam is the culture of honesty when it comes to lost belongings. Phones, laptops, wallets, they often make their way back to owners, even in busy cities like Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi. And now, add Phu Quoc Airport to that list. Some people online even joked that the Australian tourist should offer Thuy 10% as a finder's fee. But according to reports, she politely refused any reward. She didn't do it for money. She did it because it was the right thing to do. A reminder for travelers: if you're traveling around Vietnam, keep your valuables in a zippered pocket or crossbody bag. Double check your seat before leaving. Stay calm. Lost items may still be returned. But more importantly, this story shows one simple truth: good people are everywhere. If you're new here, welcome to the Vietnam news community, where East meets West. And to our returning viewers, thanks for being part of this journey. Subscribe to stay connected. Our fifth story tonight takes us into the everyday chaos of Ho Chi Minh City, where rush hour traffic pushed at least 41 motorbikes onto sidewalks within just 1 minute. It happened around 7 a.m. Tuesday on Pham Van Dong Boulevard, near the Bin Loi roundabout in Hiep Bin Ward. In the crush of morning commuters, dozens of riders, stuck at red lights or gridlock, simply opted for the sidewalk to bypass traffic. Meanwhile, on Hoang Van Tu Street in Juk Nhan Ward, another 21 motorbikes were recorded mounting the pavement in the same time frame. Footage from that morning shows a blur of helmets, wheels, and commuters on foot scrambling out of the way. Sidewalks, meant for pedestrians, temporarily transformed into express lanes for two-wheelers desperate to get ahead. Traffic police were quick to issue statements afterward. Riding a motorbike on the sidewalk, unless entering or exiting a property, is illegal. The penalty? Between 4 million VND and 6 million VND, roughly $150 to $230, and a deduction of 2 points from the driver's license under the new traffic decree. Officials also warned that this behavior doesn't just endanger people walking, it wears down the infrastructure. Sidewalks can crack, sink, or collapse under repeated loads from heavy traffic. Some experts trace the surge in sidewalk riding back to sheer frustration with congestion. Traffic light timing is often blamed, especially at major intersections during peak hours. Riders say they're caught between freezing at red lights and inching forward behind slow vehicles. So many choose what seems like the lesser evil: ride on the sidewalk. The city has tried to fight back. Earlier this year, Decree 168/2024 ramped up fines and stricter ticketing for sidewalk violations. In many corridors, officials say the sidewalk riding phenomenon has already declined. But the record from Tuesday shows how deeply ingrained it still is. For a foreigner navigating HCMC traffic, this kind of scene might feel surreal. In many Western cities, sidewalks are sacrosanct. you'd rarely see them used as traffic lanes without immediate intervention. But here, when roads jam, people adapt, sometimes in ways we wouldn't expect at home. This incident is a reminder that in a city of more than 8 million motorbikes, the battle for space is relentless, and pedestrians often pay the invisible toll. Next for you, we have a story that might make you look at tonight's dinner a little differently. Authorities in Vietnam have uncovered a nationwide operation that turned buffalo meat into so-called premium Japanese beef using chemical injections and industrial processing. More than 14 tons of fake beef were already on the market, and the scandal has now reached multiple major cities. For months, inspectors and economic police had been tracking suspicious shipments of meat moving from northern industrial zones into restaurants and supermarkets across Vietnam. Labels said Wagyu-style imported beef, but the prices seemed oddly cheap, almost too good to be true. And as it turns out, they were. The operation was linked to a processing facility connected to HIDA, a meat trading group whose products had made their way into Hanoi, Da Nang, Nha Trang, and Ho Chi Minh City. Inside the facility, investigators found workers injecting buffalo meat with fatty liquid agents designed to create artificial marbling, similar to what you'd see in authentic Wagyu beef. Except this wasn't Wagyu. It wasn't even beef. It was a biological magic trick, chemical buffalo cosplay. During coordinated inspections, authorities seized 65 tons of buffalo meat and processed products, 17 tons of marbling agent powder and chemical additives, industrial injectors, mixers, and freezers, packaging labeled as premium imported beef, shipping invoices that disguised origin and product type. Tests by the National Food Inspection Unit revealed that 24 out of 29 samples labeled as beef actually contained buffalo DNA. The texture and marbling had been engineered, thanks to injected emulsifiers, flavor enhancers, and fat-binding agents that made cheaper meat look expensive. 4 people have now been arrested, including the general director of HIDA and the director of SK Foods, who are accused of running the operation. Here's how the system operated. Cheap buffalo meat was sourced in bulk. Blocks of meat were injected with emulsified fat compounds to mimic Wagyu-style marbling. Meat was then soaked in flavor-enhancing liquids to improve aroma and color. The product was vacuum-sealed in imported-style packaging. Shipment labels were manipulated to hide origin, then distributed to supply chains nationwide. One former worker told authorities the facility could process up to 3 tons per day, and orders increased rapidly due to strong demand from restaurants looking to offer Japanese beef at low cost. Food safety officials are now urgently examining whether the compounds used in these injections pose health risks. While buffalo meat itself is perfectly safe when properly handled, the long-term effects of consuming unregulated fat-binding chemicals are still unknown. Simply put, this wasn't just mislabeling. It may have been a public health risk disguised as gourmet dining. Money. Real Wagyu beef can cost anywhere from 1.5 to 8 million VND per kilo, depending on grade. Meanwhile, buffalo meat sells for a fraction of that. By transforming cheap meat into high-end imports, profits multiplied, sometimes tripling per shipment. When demand meets greed, you get food scandals like this one. Authorities are now expanding the investigation to trace restaurants and distributors, testing remaining seized products, checking import records for fraud, considering criminal charges for spreading unsafe food. This case has sparked renewed calls for stricter food safety laws and tougher penalties for consumer fraud. Food is trust, and once that trust is broken, it takes a long time to rebuild. This scandal isn't just about mislabeled meat. It's about what kind of food system people deserve. One where safety isn't optional, and honesty isn't negotiable. Do you think Vietnam needs tougher food safety enforcement and stronger punishment for food fraud like this? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading your thoughts. That wraps up tonight's edition of Vietnam News, where East meets West. From Donald Trump's unexpected trip to Malaysia to witness a historic Thailand-Cambodia peace deal, to the tragic case in Ho Chi Minh City, where a woman lost her life during a cosmetic procedure that's now led to multiple arrests, it's been quite a night of contrasts. We also looked at the 2 hospitals left abandoned for 7 years, a reminder of how stalled projects can quietly drain local resources. Then there was the Australian tourist on Phu Quoc Island who got every dollar of her $1,500 back thanks to an honest airport cleaner. A small story that says a lot about Vietnam's everyday heroes. Meanwhile, Ho Chi Minh City's rush hour madness continues, with more than 40 motorbikes flooding sidewalks in under a minute. Something every local has probably witnessed at least once. And finally, the bizarre case of buffalo meat turned into beef using so-called marbling essence. Only in Southeast Asia, right? If you enjoyed tonight's stories or learned something new, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who loves discovering what's really happening across Vietnam and Southeast Asia. And as always, let me know what you think down in the comments. I read every one of them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, right here on Vietnam News, where East meets West.